Hello, I'm back. I'm going to be making an accordion flippy thing. I'm not going to use tags for mine, for this one anyway. I'm going to be using some small book covers that I have. I can tell you how big they are. This is just over 4 inches, so about 10.5 centimetres, by 7 inches, which is just under 18 centimetres. All of the innards of the book had kind of fallen out. I did have a little look at this one as well, because I really love this kind of tatty cover, but that's a little bit too big, I think. So this is a very similar principle to what I did with the tag flip through that I showed earlier today. I really love this edge, so I'm going to have that as my outside edge. I'm going to be using this as my hinged edge, just because it's just so pretty. So this is going to be my cover. Obviously you could still use book board, you could use a couple of layers of cardboard, cereal box or something glued together. You can use anything for this as a cover, even the etc tags, that I think is what Susie from Shabby Soul used for hers, to my scrapbox. Now I'm absolutely ashamed of my scrapbox, to be perfectly honest, because nobody, it's just ridiculous. This is all scrapbook paper mostly. There's a few of my digitals in there which shouldn't actually be in there, but this is all scrapbook paper. And the more I try to go through it, the more I just seem to add to it. So I'm going to first of all pull out some larger pieces. So these are obviously pieces that were cut off a cover. I only used scraps on the previous one. Got a nice lot of larger pieces there. Nothing, I didn't use any new pages. I need some of these other larger pieces for, oh, there's quite a wedge of big pieces there. I'm going to put them on the top. What else have we got? Put some of these up there. Yeah, I'm literally only going to use scraps. I'm not too bothered about matchy papers and things, because there's some other nice big pieces at the bottom there. Yeah, I'm not worried about making sure they all match, because a lot of things get covered up. Oh, I love that. I didn't even know I had that still. That's going up there. Of these books, but the good thing is you can just use your scraps. So that's my scrap drawer. If I can get that out of the way. I've now got my bigger papers at the top and some here. I'm not worried about them being perfectly matched, as long as, that might work, as long as they are from I mean, these are all Tim Holtz papers, so pretty much, there's a few others in there, but most of these are Tim Holtz papers. That one's not, I don't think, or they might be from a pad that I've only ever had one of. This particular one I think is Wallflower, and I've had about 50 of those, I think, over the time. Memorandum, I think. We've got a few bigger ones here. So I'm going to take my book, oh, I just need one cover really, and I want to make sure that I've got a little bit of space top and bottom. So that is pretty much perfect width. The only thing is I want to tear a little bit, so I might actually have to go for these larger ones. So let's go 1, 2 and 3. So these other bigger bits we'll use for our pockets in a bit. Ignore me for a moment, just while I get myself sorted. Right, I'm going to have this at the front. Right, so this piece here is going to be our tab. We're not going to see that because that's going to be glued to the underside of this cover. But I want it, let's have a look using my little teensy wincy ruler. It's about 1.5 inches, 4 centimetres. That gives me a reasonable amount of hinge to glue. You don't have to be exact. because you need a little bit that still shows off the edge like so. We can always add more to that if we're not really happy with it. And I'm not happy with it. I'm going to switch that round and have the green showing. That's the first fold as a book would open. And now we need to have an equal amount here before we fold it back. It will actually fold underneath itself, but what I'm going to do is just roughly give it a little crease, and then I'm going to turn it over and fold it back on itself. So we're going to have something about that size, which is a nice size. It's actually a little bit bigger than the tag book, but that's great because we'll have more room in the pockets. So we have a fold and the fold here. We currently have that. So what we now need to do is, I'm going to keep that piece because I really like that. I'm going to go for the another piece of the cardstock. Now I'm doing this slightly different to how Susie did hers, and I'll explain why shortly. We need to have a decent amount of glued edge to make sure we can fold this, but we just need a continuous piece. So I'm going to glue down the edge here. And we need to line that up. And what I'm going to do to make sure that's square is I'm just going to line it up with the previous fold. And we need to make sure that grabs before we even try to put another fold in. Right, so that is what we have so far. Now we need to fold this back. I mean, we all understand the concept of accordions, so hopefully, even if I'm not explaining this perfectly well, you can kind of understand what I'm doing. So we now have that. And again, we need to fold this back and line it up with our previous fold. It doesn't matter if they're not absolutely perfect, that's fine. Now, the mistake I made on the previous one is it should end up with a hinge at the opposite side. So your book covers will be the same way round. On the one that I made previously, if you look, it didn't quite work out like that. But that it's okay. It still works in exactly the same way, but it's nice to have both of your covers the same way round. I need at least a hinge here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I'm going to leave it at that because if I make it too big, it's going to get a bit more tricky. I'm going to glue. Oh, I'm going to pick my side. Actually, I'm going to glue here. So it's probably, when you're dealing with zigzags and folding, it's not the easiest thing to explain. A nice big overhang there. Just make sure that's lined up. We're not going to have a whole lot of this showing. Or should we go for another zigzag? Let's do it. No. I'm not going to make it too big because it's going to take an awful long time. Now this one is obviously, we've got a glued edge, and what we don't want to do is allow it to dry while it's folded. So I'm putting the crease in and then I'm opening it up to push that down again. I'm going to just draw along here. And then cut along that line. More for the scrap box. So we've got our front cover, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 sides, and then our hinge for our back cover. I hope so far that's clear. So basically I've got a W, so that's what we're looking for, W shape. I'm just going to give this glue a minute to dry and I will be straight back. Okay, I think that's dry enough to fold now. So what I'm going to do, so I don't get confused, I'm actually going to put front on there. It's going to be glued into our cover, so that's not going to be seen. It's just so I know which way round this is going to go. On the previous one, I went very organic and just tore it by hand. But this one, I am going to use my tear ruler. I am maybe going to start on that flap. So I'm just going to tear the top edge. I'm not going to tear the bottom edge. I'm going to open it out and just work my way along. I'm going to move it down so they're at a slightly different height as we come along here, and then go back up again. It's not going to make a huge difference, but it's a little difference and I'll know it's there. Okay, so that's that done. It's not too big of a difference, but it's enough. Is ink along the top. I'll speed it up so you don't have to watch. Up to me. The next thing I'm going to do is decide where I'm putting pockets and where I'm going to add maybe a tag or something rather than a pocket, and where I'm going to have a decorative page on the first two and the last one. So I'm going to get those pockets done first. So this one is not going to be a pocket. Actually, this one is not going to be a pocket because that's a really pretty page. A piece of card, and I'm going to tear it that side. So I'm going to tear the edge. I'm going to decide, I think this pocket is going to be quite a short pocket, but I want to tear about an inch lower than my pages. So I'm going to tear from about here, something like that. And I'm just going to really try carefully to tear the two edges. All of these little tiny pieces that I've torn off, I'm keeping at the moment. Some of them I am actually going to throw away. Don't panic, I'm not keeping everything. So this one is possibly going to be, it's going to be there. So now I'm going to move on to this side and pick another piece of cardstock. I think I am going for the map. I'm not, like I said, I'm not worried about these matching at all. I'm just going to go for it. And what I'm going to do is I want this at the bottom. So that's going to be there. This one I'm going to have, I think I'm going to have the double pocket here. So what I'm going to do is decide, it's such a problem when you have papers that you like both sides. Let's have a look at something different. Okay, so I'm going to tear this edge here. This one's going to be a double pocket. So that is going to be the back pocket. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this lovely piece that I cut off the end. I'm going to just tear along here because that's a bit plain. And I'm going to tear the sides and the bottom. So we now have 3 pockets on one side, and they're all going to hang down very slightly, like so. Now I'm going to grab my paper clips, and believe it or not, I only have rusty ones left. I don't have any straightforward silver paper clips at the moment, and I'm going to just paper clip these into place. That's one side of pockets done. So now I'm going to flip it over, and this one I don't have a pocket on the other side, so I'm definitely going to have a pocket there, and which is the double side. Yeah, I want a pocket here, and I think I'll have a pocket at this end. So I'm going to tear these pockets out, and I'll be right back. I now have all of my pockets in place. I'm going to have a tag here. I've got 2 pockets here, a double pocket here, and I'm going to have a tuck spot there. This is going to be another double pocket. Then we've got a big pocket and a single smaller pocket over here. It looks really confusing, but it isn't. You just need to pick which ones you're not having pockets on. So I'm not having a pocket here, and I'm not having a pocket here. Everywhere else is a pocket. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ink all of my pockets. I'm going to do that off camera, and I'll be right back. My pockets are all inked. Don't forget, when you're inking, you have to ink the back because they're going to hang down slightly. It's going to go. Now I want to sew, and I want to sew both sides at once. Sometimes it catches, sometimes it doesn't, and I have to put a second row of stitching in. But to put everything in place, I'm going to use my glue. Now luckily this piece of paper has a line across it, and I know that's going to go at the end. So I don't know what's the other side. There's no pocket the other side, so I can remove my paper clip. And I'm just going to put some glue down to that line. You don't have to be exact, because when we sew, that's going to hold the bottom of that pocket closed. This is just to keep it in place while I get prepared to sew, basically. Now this pocket is going to line up with the bottom, because this is the back pocket. Just make sure I'm inside of my creases. And then this one is going to hang pretty much level with that one. And again, it doesn't matter if I don't get glue in exactly the right places, because the sewing is going to hold the bottom of that pocket in place. Now I'm going to have to be careful on this one because there's another pocket the other side, but I'm just going to put a small amount of glue there and a little bit along the bottom here to hold that in place. Turn it over. And now I'm going to glue this side in exactly the same way. So everything is now glued into place. It's looking good so far. So far, so good. Now, I've just had a slight oh no moment, because I thought I'd glued this all on upside down, but no, I haven't. It's all glued on the right way. It's fine. When you're using someone else's work as inspiration, it's really, really difficult, because you want to do them justice. You don't want to show yourself up. But I'm really happy with this. I found gluing the pockets in place when I did the other one a lot easier than just sewing straight on and, you know, trying to match up sewing and things. I quite like the double stitching, which I will still do. I just find it easier to have my pockets in place, which is, you know, it's going to be preference to everybody. You're all going to prefer to work in a different way. I'm just showing you how I do it. I'm happy with what I've got so far, so I'm going to go and sew in my pockets, but you must remember to make sure you're sewing onto your page and not going above. Now this is how it's going to be. That's going to stick somewhere along there. So we've got bits hanging out of the bottom, not too far, and then we'll also have tags and things hanging out of the front or sticking out from the front. So we're on the right track. I will be right back after I've sewn. I've done all of the sewing. I'm just going to trim some of these threads. I'm not going to trim them all because you know me, I like to leave them hanging. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over some of the areas that I have sewn with some ink, so we get rid of some of these white lines. There are extra threads because in some of the cases I've done some zigzag stitching over the straight stitching. I'm really happy with how this is looking so far. We're not going to do any more to this today, although I'll just put that front cover on for you so you can have another little look at what it's going to look like when it's together. I'm going to do things to the cover. I don't know what yet. I hope that wasn't too confusing. It will be worth it in the end, I promise, with all the little sewn pockets and things. So I will be back tomorrow with part 2, and we will start to embellish and decorate the inside before we put the covers on. We're not going to put the covers on for a bit. Thank you for joining me. Thank you to everyone who's already subscribed to the new channels that I have in the giveaway. I am sure they are going to just fly and it's going to be marvellous. Thanks again. I will see you soon. Bye.